Hey everyone, it's Alison Heikkila. Thank you so much for joining me. Today it is time for my latest video for Imagine. So you may have seen these ink pads on my channel before, and if you go to my blog, there are a ton of posts featuring Kaleidacolor ink pads. I have a huge assortment of them. Not quite all of them, but I'm getting pretty close to having the whole collection. If you haven't seen these before and you want to make multicolor, inky, rich, vibrant backgrounds or die cuts or really anything that you want, these are a great option. These are dye-based ink pads, and what you do is you open this bad boy up, take a look. There are all of these colors right here in one pad. Then what you can do, but you don't have to, you can click them together, roll them out with a brayer, or even swipe them down paper or cardstock, and you have an instant rainbow. Every one of these comes with 5 different colors. Some of them are monochromatic, so they're all blues or they're all greens, but most of them have a wide range of colors in them. This is royal satin, and you can see that this is kind of a deep rainbow that's happening here, but they're not in rainbow order. But that's okay. They don't need to be. Look at this. This is one of my most used. Caribbean Sea. This is another one of my favorites. This is Tahiti. I love the colors in this one. But what's really cool is that you can make your own. And that's what we're going to do today. So I'm going to move these off to the side. You can get an empty Kaleidacolor ink pad, which is so cool. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to just open this up. It's uninked, so you can put in any colors that you want. I'm really excited to do this. Okay, so we have that, and we're going to wind up filling each one of these wells or pads with a different ink color. So what inks did I choose? We have Spring Green, Celeste Blue. The color of Celeste Blue is very different from what's on here. This is just a black sticker, but it's a really pretty blue. Then we have Lavender. And these colors are all colors that can be found in other Kaleidacolor ink pads, but I just got the refills so that I can make my own. This is Pansy. Look at that purple. That's like the perfect shade of purple. And then we have Cherry Pink. So we're going to use all of these colors to make our own Kaleidacolor ink pad. Okay, so let's open this up. And of course, I've already got purple on here, but thankfully it's where it needs to be, so that's okay. I'm going to zoom in. Okay, so we're going to start off with the Spring Green. Now keep in mind, these are ink refills, so they're going to be super concentrated. This is exactly what you would do if you had a Spring Green ink pad, or you had the Kaleidacolor pad that had this color in it. This is exactly what you would use. And they're going to be concentrated, so they're going to be darker than how they're going to look when you actually ink them. I should say stamp with them. Just going to make sure that that's nice and saturated. We're going to wind up letting this sit for a while, but you can see here that that color is going to start to seep down as I make a mess. Because that's just what I do, right? Let's clean that up. Look at this. Of course I did. Okay, I cleaned that up, and now we're going to do the Celeste Blue. I had put these, I tested the colors on like a tissue just to kind of see what they were going to look like when they were next to each other before I started filming, just to make sure that I had an order that I liked. Of course, you can do whatever order you want. You can have, you know, orange in the middle next to black or whatever. The one thing that you want to keep in mind is that when you click the colors together, if you are using a brayer or you're swiping them together, whatever is next to each other, they're going to wind up blending together. So I personally wouldn't put like opposite colors on the color wheel next to each other, because you could wind up getting a brown. We're going to start with lavender now. You can play around with it. The Fruitcake Kaleidacolor pad actually has red and green in it, but they're kind of more of a burgundy in one of the slots. You just got to play with it. Just keep in mind the rules of the color wheel, because that might help you with choosing what colors go next to the other. Again, I personally probably wouldn't put opposite colors next to each other, just so that I don't get a color that I don't really love. Okay. Next, we're going to go in with Pansy, and you can see how quick this is to kind of fill these up, let them sit. I might wind up doing a second inking once I let this sit for about 20 minutes. We'll see. I will do that off camera, and then I'll let you know later on what I decided to do. And then we'll wind up making a quick card with this. I'm really excited about this pansy color. It's so pretty. In fact, when I get pansies, they are often, not always, but often that purple color. And this cherry pink is so rich. It's really nice. If you'd like to see more things that you can do with these ink pads, once you've got yours inked or you get the ones that are pre-made, I have a playlist that I will link at the end of this video or in the description box, depending on where you're watching this. Maybe you're watching this on the Imagine channel. And then you can see some of the other things that you can do with this. All right, so that's it. I got a little bit of the pansy here, but that's okay. No big deal. And I'm going to let this sit for a while, and then we will play with it. I let this sit for a while, and you can see that the ink is really starting to go into the pads now. You could ink this more if you want to, but I don't really feel like it's necessary. And truthfully, I probably should let it go overnight, but I kind of want to work on what we're doing here, so we're going to keep plugging along. I clicked the pads together, and I used a piece of smooth bristle cardstock to make a strip so that I can affix it here, which I will do later. It's not totally dry yet. You can see it's kind of dark here in the middle. I'll do that off camera later. But that's our color palette, and I think it's really pretty. So now, how are we going to use this? Again, there are a lot of different ways that you can use these pads, but one thing that I like to do, I'm going to just move this off to the side for a minute, is I like to use them with acrylic blocks as my stamp. It's a lot of fun, and it's really easy. This is a great beginner project because it doesn't take a whole lot of stuff. You don't need a whole lot of things to get this made, and it's going to be really cool in the end. So go through your collection of acrylic blocks. You can see I've got a square here. This is the one that we're going to wind up using. It's a really nice size. It is 3.5 by 2 1/4. I like this size. Got some other ones here. This one's really skinny. If you wanted to do a few of these in a row next to each other, you'll see what I'm talking about in a minute. These are fun because they have this kind of wave effect. It looks really cool when you do this technique. So I'm going to move these off to the side again, and then we are going to use our pad. So open this up. We're going to click this together. It still needs to kind of get a little broken in, but it's all right. Okay, so that's clicked together. I have ink all over my hands from doing this, but as the ink soaks in, it'll be better. So now I'm going to take this block, and you can see it's pretty much the same size as the pad when it's clicked together, which is one of the reasons I like to use this. So now I'm going to just push the block into the pad and make sure I go across the whole thing, and I want to make sure that I really pick up these colors. Okay, so now I'm going to flip this over for a minute. We need a little bit more of that Celeste blue right there. Okay, that should be plenty. I'm going to unclick this. You don't want to leave it like this because the colors will start to bleed together. And now I have a piece of watercolor paper. you don't have to use watercolor paper. Use what you have that doesn't mind getting super wet. If you have mixed media paper, if you have Strathmore Smooth Bristol or any other type of smooth Bristol, you can use that. Whatever you like that will accept water. So this is not something, an instance where you want to use copy paper or something that's going to pill right away. I like using watercolor paper for this because it has a bit of texture. Truthfully, this one doesn't have a whole lot of texture, so you might not even see it in the end, but we're going to go with it anyway. So now I have just some water. Let me move this for a minute because I'm going to wind up spraying everything. Now we're going to just spray the block lightly. You can see that the colors are starting to kind of beat up a bit, and that's good. I'm going to wipe this away because I've got water everywhere now. And I don't want to I just made a mess. I tilted this too much. So we're going to do this over. I'm going to do it off camera and then we'll come back. Okay, I have reapplied the color to the block and I re-wet it. And now we are going to do a flip. Look at that already. Isn't that cool? So now I'm going to push this down because I got a couple of white spots here and I just want to get rid of those. Now is the hard part. We have to just wait. We have to just leave it here, and this is what I like to do. I grab another block and then my tape dispenser and I put it on top because we want to keep the weight on there so that the ink will go through to the paper. We don't want it to stay on the block, we want it to go to the paper. So the weight will help with that instead of me having to push on it for 5 minutes. And now I'm going to let it sit and we're going to let it dry a bit and then we will have something really cool. Meanwhile, this was the first one. So I botched it up because I wound up tilting the block while it was wet, and I got this here, so that's why I flipped it onto this. This is a piece of smooth Bristol cardstock. It's not quite dry yet, but look at how cool that is. And if you don't like this area, that's okay. We can hide it with something. But this is the effect that we're going for. Those colors are so pretty together. I'm really excited about how they look and making this pad ourselves. So I'll be back in a minute, and this pad will, this piece of cardstock will be ready to be revealed. Okay, I adhered my strip onto my brand new ink pad, and now we can, this is still going to be a little bit wet because I'm impatient, but ready? All right, so we have this here. I don't mind, but we can try to pick it up with a paper towel. Just kind of touching it. This is why you should let it sit, but again, I'm impatient. I'm good with this. Look at how pretty that is. Look at those colors. So now we need this to dry before we can move on to the next step. Also, we have some ink on here still. So what we can do is move that off to the side, and then I can spray this just a bit more, and then grab a new piece of cardstock and flip it onto there. Because we don't want to waste that ink, right? So now I'm going to flip this over. This is just some leftover scrap, and this doesn't matter too much. I can always use it, you know, add more ink to it or whatever. But I'm going to leave this somewhere else, and I'll worry about that another day. Okay, now we've got this, and we just need to dry it down. So I'm going to use my heat tool, speed up the process, and we'll be good to go. Okay, that's all dry. I'm so crazy about the way the pink is going into the purple like that. It looks like tie-dye, right? Oh, love it. Okay, so now we're going to take this clear stamp set from Hero Arts. This is called Floral Imprints. And we're going to use this with some Nocturne ink and get a really nice silhouette on this really pretty inked piece that we have. We're going to use this one here. I haven't used this stamp yet, so I'm excited to finally ink it up. I've got my Misty. I'm going to place my panel into the Misty. It's got some warping happening. It could still be a little damp. I probably could have dried it better, but again, impatient. And I'm going to figure out where I want this placed. I don't want it down all the way down here. I really would like it to be a bit more centered. Okay. Just wiping this off because it is the first time I'm using it. And now I have my VersaFine Clair in Nocturne. I'm going to ink this up. I know this isn't really in frame, and my apologies. Okay. A little bit more. I missed a spot. Okay. Here we go. Look at how pretty that is. I'm going to do it again. Since this is the first time I'm using this stamp, sometimes it takes a couple of tries to get a really good impression. And while this looks good, I want it a little bit better. Okay. One more time. Perfect. Again, this is watercolor paper, so there's going to be a texture, so getting it completely solid is a little trickier to do, but I'd say that that is pretty darn close. I've got this back in my MISTI because we're going to use this Sending Love sentiment right on that really pretty spring green. We're going to have it come off the edge as well. Okay, back with a Nocturne. Hey, that's actually pretty perfect. I don't even need to do it again. Look at how nice that is. Now we're going to tear the edges of this panel because I think it's going to look really good like that. You could, if you want to, wet the edges with some water on a brush, but I don't really think it's necessary. It just softens the fibers a little bit, but I don't mind them being pretty rough. The only thing I want to make sure I don't do is go into my colored area or cut off any of the words. So we're going to do that part kind of gingerly. I'm tearing the piece towards me. I'm using my right hand and I'm tearing towards me so that that rough edge is showing. If we were to tear it the other way, you get more, not that it's a clean edge, but it's not quite as rough. You can see the layers of the paper there. Just think it makes it look more interesting and more like a watercolor painting. One more side. There we go. Isn't that pretty? And here is our card base. So now we need to just decide how we're going to finish this off, but this is looking really pretty. To finish this card up, I thought it would be nice to just use these ink colors again on the border of our card base. So I'm going to start with the pink, and we're going to go in the order of the colors that we put on here, starting with the pink at the top. And I'm just using a blending brush, and I don't want to go super heavy or really far into the card. I do want some of that white to show. And we have to remember that we've got 5 colors here, so we have to just allow space for all of them. So then I'm going to go into my Pansy color. Just really soft blending. You can see what that looks like so far. That's really pretty. A little bit more of that Pansy so that we can blend it into the lavender. The lavender reminds me a bit more of like a cornflower blue. And now I'm going to use the same brush and go into the Celeste blue. I'm going to just flip this over, make it a little easier. I don't know why there's marks here. I must have had inky fingers last night. This is the next day that I'm doing this. That's why I mentioned last night. And now we're going to go into the green. Okay. That's really pretty. Okay, we're ready to glue. You could even use foam tape if you want to, but I think I'm going to just apply it right to the card base. Now this paper is warped a little bit, but I don't really mind it. And I didn't put glue all the way to the edges so that there would be some lift. There we go. And that is our finished card that we created using our very own blend of Kaleidacolor inks. I hope you enjoyed this video. I will be back very soon with another one. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today. Be well, stay safe. Peace out.